All right, let's go. Share screen, share screen. Okay, update on the biomarker situation. So we have a bunch of new features now. So I got someone to help me put it into R. So there's a bunch of code for that. And the idea is taking all the NHANES data, transforming it into R, and then building there's four features here that were not in the previous one. Floating median, floating mean, transparency on the dots so you can see uh, clusters of information. And the final one was the fact that it's in R in general, and that you can do statistical stuff to it easier. It becomes much more dynamic and easier to interact with. Obviously, not easy for me. I don't really know much R, but theoretically, it should be better. Okay, so why all of these things? The floating median and floating mean are very important because people don't see the, when you put a trend line to something, if you take a piece of data and you want to put a trend line into the middle of it, so let's take a look at any one of these, like this. This is so bad. Okay. Like you think that there's one, okay, anytime you put a trend line on, you're assuming that there's one rule that governs this biomarker or this trend that you're seeing. But with biology and your body in general, what you are is a series of systems made out of other systems that are made out of other systems. It's these layers of complexity. So you can think of it like a factory where you've got like 1,000 different machines running and they're all turning on and off in different rhythms and different I guess like running times, and they're all producing heat, and they're producing heats at different rates and whatnot. And then you measure the heat of the entire room and you think, oh, that's telling me something. It's like, well, okay, but there's going to be different, like, it's not going to follow one pattern, right? It's going to follow all sorts of different patterns that combine together. So putting a trend line to something assumes that there's just one equation going on, when in fact it's a multivariable equation. So trend lines are just really dumb in I think in biology in general. Um, well, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I should say that they're dumb when they're used a lot of times in the aging field. Okay, so let's go over a couple of these things. One, CRP. So this is the CRP in R, and we've got 3 years here processed so far. So I used to think that like the first set of data said, oh, it doesn't really change with age. And that's still kind of true, except now it's not, it's a development thing. You can clearly see here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. You can clearly see that there's this motif up until like early 20s where it's got this one level. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, this will just have to do. So it's got this really low level right up until, early 20s. And that's across multiple years with multiple data sets. And then it switches up and it goes up into this sort of higher. These are median values, and then the average is up here. The reason why I included median is because the difference between the median and the average might tell you something about the nature of like pathologies. So like if there was a subset of the population that just got this like disease, and their levels of some biomarkers skyrocket, they're going to pull the average way up and the median's not going to shift much. And so you can see that like for instance, if you took the average here for this particular data set and you're only looking at the average, you might believe that it somehow increases towards late life. That's only because there's a subset of people that are getting these pathology, and for the median value, it doesn't seem to change much at all. So anyway, so CRP is now like it's got these two different sections. Here again, you can see the average actually does kind of have flatline on this one, so it's a little bit better, but you can see how the median is also very flat right across the board. It's got variance in it, but it doesn't seem to be shifting upwards over the lifespan. Compare that to something like cystatin. So here we have two cystatin um, groupings or values, and we can see that it starts to go up, but there is an inflection point. So if we cover up, if you can just mentally cover up everything past the age of 50, if you look pre-50, it looks pretty flat. It looks like it's doing just like, it's just trucking along. And then all of a sudden it just starts to rise. So this is what I'm kind of looking for is where are the inflection points? And it's harder to tell with the larger scatter plot. Although we do still want that information, or I want that information because I want to see the full body of information and not just go off of just mean or just the average. Same thing here for cystatin. If you cover up everything past 50, it looks like pretty stable. And then once you get past 50, it starts to rise consistently. So there's different stories going on about the nature of what aging is. Some things you think, oh, they rise from childhood onwards. Some things there's a story about growth, maintenance, and decline. And so understanding the nature of where there's inflection points in these biomarkers is going to tell us something about the nature of like which of these motifs are correct. Okay, anyway. VO2 max, it kind of doesn't really change after childhood. And I'm not sure that this is a product of just there being more data in this section versus this section. So we'll have to see. Let's see here. Triglycerides, again, blah, 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 blah. Total cholesterol. It's kind of interesting. Okay, well, let's just go over to, okay, so this is the old testosterone data. Look how crazy, like it's all like the variance for the median is like all over the place. Anyway, so telomeres. This is like a classical, like this clearly is changing consistently with age. Obviously, it would be nice to get earlier data, but it's not there. There's an artifact here of some where the median drops down for some reason. Anyway, we've got this trend downwards, and it seems to be pretty consistent. You can see that the top of the median variance is but way below the bottom of the median way earlier. But for the total data, it's like it's harder. Like I won't get into it right now, but okay, this one again, I don't know. I feel like we're gonna need to process more. Peak force, pretty clear decline. LDL cholesterol seems to be holding after, again, age early 20s. And I'm not sure if it's an artifact of just being more data there. That'd be interesting. I think you get the point though. So this is like what I was imagining or hoping for from the beginning, and we're getting there. So yeah. Oh, here's a good example. Okay, check this out. So for this one, we've got the mean and the median very tight together, right on top of each other for like the early part of life. And then there's destabilization and the average gets pulled up. The median, not so much. It's kind of hovering. It's just barely moving. And if you take only the late life, if you cover this up And from age 50 and earlier, if you just cover that part up, it doesn't look like the median changes very much at all towards late life. This is glycohemoglobin, this is A1C. Um, and I was told by somebody who seems to know what they're talking about that A1C is a product of obesity. So if the general population is unhealthy, and this is a very real possibility and the probability, is if most people are not healthy, like at peak fitness, then then the majority, the median, is also going to show pathology as well. Um, so that needs to be taken into account. But you can also see how there's all these outliers up here that are shifting the average up. So you might believe if you were just going off of the average that like A1C does rise with age, but it doesn't seem like it does. Okay. I won't bore you with the rest of this. It's only been partially processed so far, and it'd be nice to get automation, but working on that part for the rest of the biomarkers. Okay, why is this important? Because what I'm doing here is I'm not trying to find the right biomarkers to like hack back into their old positions. That's dumb. Everyone keeps assuming that I'm doing that. It's not what I'm doing. What is necessary at this point is to figure out the relationship between all these different things. So we have time at the bottom here. This is just an example diagram of something that I'm hoping to build later. And then we have like aging, but obesity is over here because obesity requires time in order to occur. You can't just get fat overnight. It doesn't happen like over the course of a week. It takes a long time. So people believe that obesity and aging are like linked to each other. And they kind of are through the concept of time, but you can age without being obese ever in your life, right? So it's a separate thing. So if we find all the biomarkers that rise with obesity, that they're also then tied to time, we can stack them onto obesity, like A1C or low testosterone. And then we can take that whole chunk and push it over here and be like, okay, if you can just solve obesity, which is very solvable, then you can eliminate all that part. Okay, now that's no longer aging. This thing over here is aging. What is actually part of aging? It's all the stuff that all right. There's some kind of weirdness going on with the microphone. Doesn't matter. Okay. So that means that we can take all this stuff over here that cannot be removed from aging. That just sort of like God damn it. Now I lost my place. Okay. Bu- 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 Right. Anyway, so that's the point. The point is to find like how these things are related to each other, and then we can take all the things that change with age, and we can start slicing out large chunks of them and find out what's actually aging and what's just a product of these other fundamental problems. So all the different theories that people have are going to put for aging at least, they're going to have different root causes. So there might be things that are like up here for telomeres. Sorry, I should have drawn this earlier, but whatever. Um, there's going to be things that people are going to claim are a result of telomere changes. And there's going to be things like people maybe they think I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, so we'll just put in cystatin just as a placeholder. Cystatin. I'm sure it's wrong, but let's say that cystatin is like some root cause, right? You're gonna have to take all the biomarkers that change with age that we can measure, and you're gonna have to somehow come up with a narrative that explains why all those things are changing. Um, so everyone's pet theories about like this is the reason, this is the reason, this is the reason. We're gonna have to come up with something that takes all these pieces and assembles them all together to say, okay, here's what the root causes are, here's what the other pieces are. Here's my opinion at this point in time is that there are going to be things, let's close that. There are going to be things that look like glycohemoglobin or that look like telomeres, right? Where it's a very clear linear relationship. It seems relatively simple. It's the grouping is very tight. Um, and then there's going to be things that are all over the place that have different, like, there's a bunch of variants. There's a bunch of like different like motifs. There's inflection points in these things. And so I think that the things that the biomarkers that have simple rules attached to them are going to be on the bottom, right? That's your lower, that's like lower on the, it's not the food chain, but it's like the causality chain. And then as those fundamental processes interact with each other and build on each other, then that leads to the emergence of these complicated, noisy biomarkers. So that's just a gut reaction at this time. Um, and I think that some of these biomarkers are going to be measuring like the heat in a factory, and that's going to shift all over the place. And if you add more heat to a factory, you're not going to magically make the machines run like, fix the machines. But some of them are going to be measuring the level of rust that is occurring on the machines. Some of them are going to be measuring how much water is dripping into the factory, and some of them are going to be measuring, the actual health of the machine itself. So I think that's what we want to get to. But step one is to just get a list of everything that changes with age, and then separate that stuff from stuff that does not change with age. Okay, cool. That's all I have for right now. And share. I'll see you later.